of Professional Development for the AFP-NEO chapter. We are certainly glad to see so many thrilled faces in this wonderful beginning of another great year. I know I'm hoping to get a lot of good information from all of you on how to learn together and share successes from the past year or two, especially since we've all somehow survived this first year of a pandemic. So I know we're going to keep it pretty light. I'm going to run through the kind of 6 main topics of areas we wanted to cover, kind of leave things open. My thought is probably about 10 minutes per topic, just so that everybody can have enough time to cover and still have time for questions if people have great ideas that other people want to interrogate a little bit. But I can see our reliable chapter administrator, Jackie, is going to be taking copious notes that she'll share out with everybody after the session is completed. But no, we can jump right in if everyone's ready. Feel free to add things in the chat or raise your hand, get my attention, or just unmute yourself and jump in. We're a pretty friendly bunch, as you can tell. So we can start right in with ideas for the annual fund. What new, different, reliable things were you doing in the last year or two that worked? And if no one jumps in, I will start calling on board members. So get ready.
So Dan, it's Lori Molnar with Hattie Larlum. I'm going to say we really upped our social media campaign. A lot more Facebook, Instagram, and asking for people to join social media.
And I will add to that, we did the same.
Did either of you use Facebook for the platform for giving, or did you redirect to your website?
I wanted to redirect to our website, but it was recommended that it's easier for people who already are signed up to donate on Facebook to just donate on Facebook. Lori, is that the same with you?
Yeah, we literally had a strategic plan that included education through social media about services and programs.
It just takes forever to get the money, and you don't get a lot of donor information.
Yeah, this is Danielle. I was going to mention that same thing with Facebook, and one of the reasons Kent State stays away from having people give directly through Facebook is because you do not get donor information, and it works as a pass-through for your money versus posting your own giving link on Facebook.
Danielle, I actually followed your platform too. A friend of mine shared it with me, and that's what I presented. Like, I think this is what we should do. Like, direct people to our website so that we're catching their information.
Yes.
And
yep.
I had one board member that was just like, no, we really need to make it. I'm not going to go get my credit card out and put that information in. So I'm already set up to donate through Facebook. So it's easier for me just to click the link and hit donate. So then I had another board member back her up with that, saying the same thing. Like, she's like, I'll be sitting there in the evening drinking my wine and click, 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 just going through like, Facebook and seeing these nonprofits. And then it's easy for her to donate.
Yeah, I think that there's an internal educational campaign there that, the value of getting that donor information and the value of taking people to your own site and keeping it in-house, and then making your own site as user-friendly as possible. So right now we are getting set up with Venmo and all those alternative payment processors and opportunities, just so that we want to come to the donors where, how they're used to paying, but not through Facebook. You know what I mean? So we want to make it as easy as possible while keeping them in-house.
I like that. And maybe I should take that.
Is anyone utilizing a software system for development that has the social media profiles for their donors?
We use Classy. It's a crowdfunding platform. So we have our main donation platform through Illuminate and Blackbaud, but then we use, like for our Giving Tuesday campaign, we use Classy, which is a crowdfunding software. And I know that Kent State is a behemoth, right? So I do have a lot more resources for that type of thing than most nonprofits, but we are able to do the Classy platform, which I highly recommend.
Classy is awesome, though it was too pricey for us. We're much smaller organization, so it's a very robust, wonderful platform. But yeah, too much for me.
Danielle and Von Dien, I'm signing the contract with them tomorrow for 1 year. You like them?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I don't. Maybe it's just because I come from for profit, but I don't think it's that crazy. It's $3,000, and it, you know,
We wouldn't be able to afford that.
it's all profit. It's all return on investment, man.
Yeah, I think if you use Classy, if you're a smaller shop and you use Classy as your main giving platform, not as another tool in the toolbox, I think it makes sense as an investment, right? Because it does have a regular donation pages and has all of that capability as well. But because we are so far down the road with Blackbaud and Illuminate, Classy is a tool in our toolbox versus being the end all be all for giving pages.
Well, it isn't. It won't be for us. We use GiftWorks, which I don't like, but we're dipping our toe in and spending some money to make some money, especially since we have to do a virtual fundraiser this year.
I'll be curious, Paula, to hear how well it works for you, because if it works really well, I might reconsider. But at the time I looked at it, it was an add-on. So it was another tool in the tool basket, and it was going to be more money than what I could justify for the number of online gifts we currently get. Now, of course, Classy will tell you that you'll get more if you have a better and easier platform. Maybe.
Well, I like their approach to things. I look at them as not an operations tool. They're really an operations and marketing tool. I like some of the concepts that they have behind their approach to particularly events. So we'll see.
No, that's awesome. Good.
Hi, I'm new to the group. I'm Michelle. I am at a small local nonprofit, and I just actually signed a 2-year contract with Classy in December.
Okay.
I actually researched quite a few platforms, even the big one of Blackbaud and TeamRaiser and Illuminate, but we went with Classy based on what we could afford and what they offer. So I'm getting training and getting that set up as well. And I actually also agree with Paula that they have a lot of their marketing and we're going to be using it for some team fundraising as well as crowd fundraising and our regular donation page, because our current isn't so great. So we're really looking forward to that. But somebody had mentioned Venmo, and I wasn't understood that you could do that for like a nonprofit or corporation. Is that something you can do? Because I would be interested in hearing more about that. Because
yes, there is a nonprofit arm of Venmo, and the same stuff that you would have to go through for like a PayPal for your organization. But yes, you could do Venmo for charitable gifts.
And then you just connect that to your website, just like you would like PayPal.
Yep, it's just a payment process.
Do you find PayPal is more attractive to younger donors, or why did you go that direction?
Venmo is more attractive to younger donors.
Okay,
most people,
all the younger people are using Venmo.
I'm not young, but I love Venmo too. And I even got their cool credit card that is awesome because you can just sit there and pay for it. And it just makes the whole thing so much easier.
when you set up Venmo for nonprofit, is there an option for the donor to cover the fees?
That since Venmo is a payment processor, that happens on your site, right? So like with Classy,
right?
I'm not getting paid by Classy, I promise. You have the option to put in, do you want to cover Classy's fees? For Kent State, we don't ever put that in because our Foundation pays for the fees of all of our donors. But Classy has that. I believe Luminate Blackbaud has that. It's on the transaction.
Yeah, we use that as an option, and we actually get quite a lot of our donors being a very small nonprofit that cover the fees. And that was one of the reasons I went with Classy, is because they have that it can be automatically checked, and you'd have to uncheck it to actually not pay for the fees. So we went with that option. But yeah, I was just curious if Venmo had that.
Do people like Venmo as opposed to just Cash App?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
Just easy. You can find your friends. I pay my friends a lot of times. My hairdresser, I pay her on Venmo, and just easy kind of do things. Or if you're like me, sometimes I buy things off of Facebook Market, and people are timid when you do those things. But if you do Venmo, it's a lot easier, and people seem to be not so timid.
I think they may have been asking about Cash App, right? Not just like Cash. Yeah,
it's the same thing, but I wondered if Venmo, if it has a younger vibe, is that true, and does it really matter?
I found Venmo's just more widely adopted. I actually have Cash App as well and used it before. So I don't know the specifics about their fundraising capabilities, but it works a lot like Venmo. I just think Venmo's more popular.
Oh, okay.
I use the only one that is able to take donations. I don't think Cash App is set up to do that.
Okay.
That would be like
I think Venmo really hit in the last 4 years when I had 3 kids in college, and that's when the popularity was growing. And to transfer money to the kids to cover things, it's just really easy to transfer money back and forth, and that was really convenient for college kids. And I think that's why it really grew with that kind of millennial audience as a really.
Dawn, I did the same thing when Sarah had a PNC account and I had a credit union account, and so I was having to go get money and take it from one bank to another, and then all of a sudden one of my coworkers told me about Venmo, and so when I told Sarah that I could just give her some money through Venmo, she started laughing. She says, "Mom, you know about Venmo?" So they were laughing at me because I'm some old person, but it is quite easy, but I never knew that it was available for nonprofits.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah, it's interesting because Cash App is owned by Square. I know Venmo is part of PayPal, so you'd think that Square does so much e-commerce, they would make it a little more widely applicable, but to my knowledge, it's just not used as much as Venmo is.
Huh, I didn't know that.
So, what's the nonprofit rate for Venmo? Or does it depend on how many people you think are going to use it?
If it's just cash against cash, there isn't any rates. If it's, if you use a credit card with Venmo to pay someone, they have Venmo credit cards, then they do add fees, but it's to the person that's using the credit card. As far as getting money, I've never gotten a fee on Venmo. PayPal I have before when people have used it and didn't do the friends and family.
Okay.
Hey, Dan, I'm sitting here thinking we need a PD on these cash platforms. On just the cash platforms, we need a PD on them.
You were reading my mind too.
That's great. So are we following guidelines?
This is why Dan likes this, having this at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Are we following some kind of a cadence here, or is this just a free for all? Because I want to ask Don a question. Don Meglin.
Oh, you can jump in, Paula.
You can jump in. Okay, Don, can you tell us about when you were at your former employer? Tell us again, because I want to capture the information about that nifty $300 gadget that you got. Let's see.
Oh gosh, I haven't thought about those since I left that former employer. They were donation jars. I'm trying to dip jars.
Dip jars.
I actually have to give the credit to the Akron Canton Regional Food Bank because that's where I saw them. I was actually presenting about senior food insecurity to a group from Akron, Leadership Akron. And after we finished the presentation, I saw several people get up and whip out their credit cards and dip their credit card into this branded white box that was not very big, because my head, I guess. And donate money. And it was like $25 a swipe. And I was just like, what is that? What is that? That people just like stood up and they knew what it was. And I had never seen it before. And it's kind of got a feel of a slot machine almost, that when you dip your credit card in, and it's a preset determined amount, when you dip your credit card in, you can set it for anything from $1 to $100 a dip. And the fun of it was we had it at a food festival for Meals on Wheels, and we were carrying it around on a tray and walking around and asking people if they wanted to take a dip. And we set it for like $10, and people had so much fun watching it. It lights up and it plays music. And they would dip, they wanted to give a $50 donation, so they would dip 5 times. And they were having fun. Like they were just like, oh, how much, you know, I'm like, well, it's $10, so you have to dip 5 times if you want to give 50. And they're like, cool. And they would sit and dip.
Yeah, Deb Maurer, look at your face.
I know. I'm like, I need that.
Yeah, it's, I mean, and so the opportunities for it, and I, you know, and then when COVID hit and we just didn't have a time. Seriously, walking around at a food festival where there were like 1,000, 2,000 people, and just like, we had people walking around going, would you like to dip? Would you like to dip? Dip to donate. And people were like, what is that? And then they had so much fun doing it. We raised, we covered our cost of the dip jars because they were $300 a jar. Is the initial investment. And then they get a portion of your proceeds.
How's the data capture? How's that work?
The data capture is non-existent. It's like a Facebook thing. You're not capturing the data at all.
Oh.
So, but what's fun is it is another revenue stream, and you can set up, we were actually working to set up challenges with our board members so that they would take it to their corporate break room and challenge each other to see which board member raised the most money from their corporations. And then whoever won was going to get a Dippin' Dots party, the Dip Dot ice cream.
I love that.
Then, you know, then we, I don't know, this pesky pandemic hit and I left, and, you know, it was all that drama. But
dude, I shouldn't have said anything, because now everybody's going to get it. I could have been the one.
I know, sorry. But I thought it was
how sharing I am.
Can I take it to a ski resort?
Biggest drawback is it's just like Facebook, you're not capturing the data. But you are, you know, that's an opportunity to hand a donation pamphlet to somebody while they're dipping, or to leave your collateral there. The corporation that manages the dip jars has a million ideas to partner with people, to partner with coffee shops and taco stands and food trucks, and there's just a lot of different ways you can use it. They do a really, really good job of, they brand it for you so you can get your logo on it. And, you know, yes, is the downside that you're not capturing donor data? Absolutely. The upside is you're making some money. So,
Don,
so
Don,
Don,
we had who's the organization?
What's that?
Is
Dip
Dippin' Jars? What are they called?
It's like dip. I think it's called dip jars.
Doreen put it in the chat. Doreen put
put
the Doreen put
there
the,
it is. Dipjar.com.
and they have videos on there of people using it in different ways. You know, it really is capturing the excitement of the moment and getting people that are all riled up anyway. And, you know, rather than buy that extra drink, they're dipping for us. So I love that idea. And I was close to buying it before I got COVID hit for the library. You know, if you do a lot of events, it's a great tool.
Yeah, it's a really good. Karen's trying to say something.
Well, I was just saying, we had it at the beer truck, and it was all volunteers that were doing the beer and wine, but people were leaving tips with it, and you know they were already drinking and they were happy. So
yeah. So we had like
That's
a cash
the timing
jar.
at any donor.
Yeah, we had a cash jar for tips. So if people just wanted to give cash, they could. But if they wanted to do a credit card, they could as well. Because they had to buy tickets to buy the booze, you know, all of the liquor limits. But people were having fun with it. They genuinely were. They really, it really hit the young people. and that's the audience you want to hit. And the event was really done. There was not like an extra fundraising angle to the food truck festival. It was just like you had your sponsors, and then you got a portion of the proceeds from the sale of the food. And we really saw this as a way to add, something fun to this outdoor event, to engage people too, that maybe were just there because it was a cool food truck fest and didn't really know it was to benefit a nonprofit. So it really kind of helped with that too. It was fun.
Check it out.
Something that we did at the Derby this year, we were very strategic in our asks. And so when we had asks, we had somebody already lined up with what they were interested in obtaining. So, we had a group in the Summit Lake area who wanted to be part of our Gravity Racing Challenge race that wanted some of our big cars. And so we already had a spreadsheet that had the amount of cars they wanted, and the brakes, and the weights and wheels and all that type of thing. And so when the right opportunity presented itself, then we pulled that out, and then we were able to actually, in a matter of months, we were able to get that organization $3,000. So we were really excited about that. And we've taken that approach too with our grants. We already know what we want to get, and we make sure that they align with the grants that we're applying for.
Any other annual fun successes for us all to note and try to replicate this year?
Sure, I'll jump in. Dan, good morning. This is Cheryl Hoffman from the Conservancy. I work with Dan, my colleague. The Conservancy, we actually did 3 direct mail annual fund mailings this past year, which worked out well. They were one was very targeted to our top 100 donors, and then the other 2 are our typical annual fund. We just went into we approached it a little different than previous development department had approached it with the letter. So it was just a different format for the letter. And then we also took advantage of the 2 Giving Tuesdays, and we had the advantage of National Park Week to do the social media fundraising. But we also upped our game in social media fundraising, and that's been very successful. But we had our best year ever last year. So, and our fiscal year ended August 31st. So we just had some extremely generous donors, a lot of communication with them, email, phone calls, letters, cards. Dan's hand in my hands ready to fall off, but it paid off.
From the University of Akron, especially with COVID, we find that folks are responding quickly to small urgent needs. Let's say $30,000 for us, that would be a small, a mini campaign. And urgent needs such as when COVID hit, we needed emergency funding for, excuse me, shelf food, because we still had some international students on campus, and it was an area in our student union where the students could go and there would be free shelf life food on the shelves. Also technology support because of COVID. A lot of folks, a lot of students didn't have the proper technology at home, or had to share too much technology at home with their parents working, their siblings taking online classes. So we had an emergency technology fund. So those urgent, smaller campaigns have been very successful using the same format for annual funds.
Thank you, everybody, for those great ideas. I know I've got some notes already, so we can jump right into major gifts. So what was working? I mean, especially with the pandemic, it's obvious you couldn't necessarily just sit down with your normal 85-year-old major donor the same way you would, or even your 40-year-old major donor. What were you all doing to keep in touch and keep the relationships going, and keep the dollars coming in lieu of this wonderful pandemic?
For me, one of my successful major gifts is due to being in tune to when your donors are retiring or selling their business, because there's such great tax savings for them. And so you really, I mean, I had 3 people retiring last year, and especially with COVID now, people are rethinking when they want to retire. It's to their advantage to maybe get out now. So really, really pay attention in that area.
There's some other things out there. We'll start calling people out.
Well, and the thing is, I don't think people are building now. I think there's a hold on capital, campaigns. So a lot of major gifts come from a capital campaign initiative. It's hard to get wood, right? It's hard to get building material. It's like 50% more to build right now. So I know for the university, we're steadfast in holding on any type of capital campaign for building constructions and concentrating more on the student.
And it depends on what your threshold for a major gift is, right? Different organizations have different thresholds for what they consider a major gift. But I know, especially when the pandemic hit, like what Cynthia was saying, we also focused a lot on student needs in our emergency fund. So what we did is we went out and made second asks to our major gift donors specifically to support the emergency fund. So whereas they might have made their major gift in the College of Business or the College of Public Health, we went and asked them again specifically for emergency funding that would help students in any college. So we did that. And then the second thing is, because we were all working from home, I'm still working from home. So if you see a cat pop up, don't be alarmed. Our major gift officers, our frontline fundraisers, had the opportunity to do a lot more stewardship touches and checking in on people to strengthen that relationship, so that when we do launch our comprehensive campaign sometime soon after things go back to semi-normal, they'll be primed and ready to really take part in a major way.
And this is Bondia, and that's been my experience as well. So that my major gifts weren't significantly different from the previous year, but it's been a good opportunity to stay in touch, make sure that people are feeling okay, just checking in and stewarding those major gift donors so that they're feeling engaged, because many of them were volunteers and they can't come into our facility, or they participated in events in the past and they can't do that. So it's been a good opportunity, and it's always a good idea to steward. This just kind of forced my hand in some ways.
I've seen at least one organization continue their capital campaign. I can't remember who was this, Cynthia. I think you mentioned that capital campaigns were on pause. I don't know that they're doing as much of a major push, but it started before the pandemic. And so they've just continued soliciting donations, or accepting donations, I should say, for that reason. But I'm not sure what the building plans are. It's a performing arts and arts education center up here closer to Cleveland, but they haven't totally stopped. So it's still going. I'm just not sure that they're going to break ground before things get a little more back to normal.
So we actually started our capital campaign mid-COVID for the battered women's shelter in Medina. And we actually had great success actually through building contractors, because so many people renovated their homes throughout COVID that they were doing better than almost anyone else. So even though the building costs was so much higher, they were willing to give in that aspect. So I think that it just depends on who you were asking and what for. And obviously it's a much smaller undertaking than like a university building or something like that, but we did really well in that aspect.
This is Cheryl from the Conservancy again. We actually have continued with a major campaign. We're in the process of acquiring the Brandywine Golf Course. So we're not building anything, but we have been working closely with some of our major donors, and it's been a lot of one-on-one, walking them through the property with masks, doing social distancing, but also targeting needs of the park. We have a donor that just supported a bridle trail improvement. This was a donor who actually came to us with this idea. So we were able to make that happen. Something else that we've done that you may want to think about that has so far been successful, and we haven't had a lot of donor pushback, is that on our restricted gifts, we've done 20% to general operating and 80% to the restricted fund, whatever that might be. Whether it's, building a bridge, or now we haven't done that with the purchase of the Brandywine property, but because there's so many operating costs within that purchase itself that we have to account for. But we're doing it with trail improvement gifts. I'm trying to think of some others. Dan, jump in. But just those restricted gifts that we get.
Another thing to back up Cheryl, a lot of people are making a lot of money off of the stock market. And so you could even have a stock market campaign, stock giving campaign. So yeah, don't forget about that, because quite a bit of money came in through stocks this year.
Hey, it's Carol. Paula, I want to ask you, since you're involved with, the Altman Women's Board, talking about capital money, do you know what's going on with the Timken Family Cancer Center?
Regarding what? So
their capital campaign.
It's going well. I know that I don't believe that they're still in the quiet period. I think that it was hurt by COVID, of course, because they were going to go live with their public campaign right when COVID hit, but it's going very well. I know that not really being able to have the full thrust of the angel auction hurt the Women's Board donation, obviously, but we're still able to put money to it. It's one of those things that it's gradual. We cite something that's going to be a multi-year commitment and work toward it. So I imagine they'll probably have to add on some time.
Yeah. Well, I know, in Stark County, Altman has such major support, and, a lot of people, are going behind that, getting behind that. So I'm thinking there's probably some major gifts going in that direction.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be a thing. The one thing for this group that Altman is doing toward the cancer center is there's a wealthy gentleman who has I don't know if he does antique cars, but he gave us a vintage Corvette, and they're raffling it for $200 a ticket. It's definitely high end, but they've got videos around it, and they've really got a lot of energy around it. I don't know how successful it's going, but they did this cool video with him standing by it, and it's what are they calling it? It's something like Win George's vet or something.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah,
cute.
and he knows, I mean, a lot of people know George in
Yeah.
the Stark County community. You know, he's been
He's a
involved
cancer
with the Pro
survivor.
Football Hall of Fame Enshrinement Festival, and
Yeah.
Very
yeah, he
philanthropic.
just has a lot of people. Pardon me?
He's very philanthropic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice guy. But yeah, that's a really cool, unique kind of fundraiser. And
Yeah,
somebody
Deb's
has that.
on women's board too. Deb, do you have anything to add to that? You probably know more than I do.
No, I haven't. Honestly, I've been so busy in my own position that I haven't really been paying much attention to it. But I know, like just everybody else, they're working hard. They're you know, we want to see this cancer center go up, and of course the pandemic did not help matters, and they had to cancel the angel auction, and just, you know, trying to figure out what's the best route to go. I mean, it was the largest event and one of the largest events in our community. So
Oh, it is the largest. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
it is. And like, you know, it's a challenge, because do we want to really take it virtual? I mean, I know that's what everybody else is doing, but it's just a challenge. So they're still working through those details. And last I heard, it was postponed again. So we'll see.
I'm anxious to talk about virtual events in our little forum here.
You know, I've heard a lot of success with some nonprofits, but then others, you know, I mean, I don't know that a virtual event would be good for ours. We're such a small council that we have to tap into the people that we're serving. So I don't know that a virtual event for my council would be good. I don't know. Maybe it would be. I don't know, but I know Refuge of Hope had a great turnout with theirs, and I heard the heart ball, or the heart had a great success with theirs, right, Paula? It was the Stark County Heart Association.
Have we exhausted major gifts? Should we jump into events?
Feel free.
Okay. I've heard the same, that some people hit their budget, some people altered budget with events. So I'm curious to know what you guys all are doing with your major events. Are you planning them in person? We have ours in May, and that's one of the reasons why I'm buying Classy, is because they have some tools that'll up our game a little bit rather than just do the general virtual event. I've heard of people having, was it Altman Women's Fund, or wait, was it Akron Women's Fund, Pam, that had dinners delivered to everybody? And Dan, you know, we're kind of jumping through lots of bigger hoops to try to get some traction around this stuff. What's everybody done that's been successful? If you've done
Right, Paula, the Women's Endowment Fund of Akron was one of the first ones to do their big major virtual event in May, and we had about 600 people attend, and we delivered dinners to all of them. But one thing you have to keep in mind is, that dinner was originally supposed to be in March, so we were on the verge of having it. Everything had been done, planned, everything, and we had to shut down the day of the event. So everything had been planned. So, you know, all of our stuff had been planned. And so we were trying to decide, well, do we just not have it? Give people their money back? What are we going to do? And it was actually our caterer's idea to do it this way. And it was very successful. So the one that's coming up this March is going to strictly be virtual. We're going to do the same thing, deliver dinners and everything. And so this March, we're going to do virtual again. The only thing with the virtual events is the platform makes all the difference. You have to have a good platform in order really to pull that off.
What did
and then
they
another
use?
group.
What was the platform, Pam? What platform did you use?
Well, we were very blessed that the girl that was in charge of it worked for Goodyear. So Goodyear, we used Teams actually was their platform, but Goodyear ran everything. So we had a company that ran everything. Another group that I belong to, Project Grad Akron, another nonprofit, they had their dinner, but the people came and picked them up. The Night Center catered it. So they drove in through the Night Center, they loaded up their car and people drove off. So the people actually came and picked up their dinner and their swag bags and everything. That organization was another one that was very lucky because someone on the board was from SUMA. So SUMA did all the background, the platform work and all the background. So sometimes if you could find a company in your area that's willing to partner with you and do, use their platform and everything, it's a big cost saver.
Dan, I know you and Cheryl had a lovely event. You can talk about it. I'm just curious how profitable it was from that standpoint. You had a great event.
We did. We ended up saying most of you, if you are aware of the Conservancy for Cuyahoga Valley National Park, may know of our clam bake that normally happens in September. We ended up not having the clam bake. Obviously, we couldn't get 300, 400 people all together for a party. However, we kind of took it out of the clam bake concept and centered it more in, called it a picnic in your park. And similar to what Pam was saying about Project Grad Akron, everyone ordered. I mean, they got the normal invitations and reserved meals. Everything was packaged in a lovely picnic basket that they got to take with them, and we were encouraging everyone to take the picnic and go enjoy it somewhere in the park. Plenty of people ended up doing it in their backyards and having friends over at an appropriate distance. So we really left it up to you, but we had live music. Everyone was invited to come pick up their meals from our Environmental Education Center in Peninsula. And yeah, so it was really kind of just a drive-through experience, totally touchless. We had volunteers, staff members who were putting everything in people's trunks or in their back seats. We provided a limited pre-recorded virtual opportunity, and I'd say maybe 10% of people actually were even interested in that. I think the initial feedback we were getting from a lot of our normal event donors was that they missed the experience of being able to support the Conservancy with friends and people that they know.
Dan, I'm gonna jump in a minute.
In.
Whoop. I was gonna say, I think one of the things that made it really special is that our CEO was there, our CFO was there, and the park superintendent, Craig Kenkel, was there. And of course, Dan and I were there, but we were greeting cars as they pulled up, standing back. People would put their window down. We had masks and we're greeting people. I think that people really enjoyed that. They felt like, wow, we're getting to see one another. We had some cars that pulled over and were talking with one another. So I think just the feel, we made it feel as festive as we could as you pulled up. And we actually repeated a similar thing like that as a thank you for our volunteers, where they pulled up in the park and were given a little swag bag, and we had signs welcoming them and thanking them. And they loved it. We got thank yous from our volunteers thanking us. So it's still virtual, but kind of a semi-virtual event. And Picnic in Your Park was very profitable for us. I can't believe I don't remember how much, but 65,000, something like that. So it wasn't, and the clam bake, compared to the clam bake where we usually raised about between 70 and 80,000 for scholarships, that was profit. We spent a lot less time, a lot less money. We didn't have a big committee that we were trying to organize. We didn't have a ton of auction items. It was successful.
So was your money made primarily in sponsorships? Because just the markup on a dinner is not going to be profitable.
Right. Yes. We had some wonderful sponsorships starting at the $1,000 level. We had numerous donors who just did $1,000 and they got, I want to say, meal for 2 baskets with that, or maybe it was 4 baskets with that. And then we had some $5,000 level sponsorships that they were able to take a site within the park, and we were able to give them a socially distanced, safe site in the park. The weather was great, so that helped.
I have a question about charging. Did you guys, had you already been selling tickets to that event when it was a clam bake?
No, we hadn't. We decided to do that in lieu of the clam bake, and we decided to do that in July.
Oh, okay. So you hadn't started that
No,
thing.
The event that we had started working on, fortunately, we hadn't invested a lot in it yet. Was our elevation and topography event in mid-June. It's around solstice every year. And those 2 events attract somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 people a night.
Wow.
They're back-to-back events, one at a $75 ticket level and the other is at a couple $100 ticket level. And neither event have I ever attended. Dan and I are, both started within this past year and a half at the Conservancy. So it's been an interesting time for us. We've done really well and our team is continuing to do great work, but it's almost an entirely new team too. So it's been a challenge.
I have some tips that I've noticed for virtual events. We've worked with a couple of organizations and I've attended a few, and I'm actually attending one for an organization where I'm a committee member coming up in February. Some things I'm thinking a lot about, like the difference between what makes a successful virtual and what's not. And I think virtual events still, like, while you can save some costs on the overhead, they still require like quite a bit of work. I think that's something to wrap your heads around in advance, because if it's something you're not going to want to attend, if it's an event that doesn't look like a lot of effort's going to be into it, no one else is going to want to attend just by virtue of supporting you. I think people at this point in the pandemic really want something that they feel they're getting value for the ticket that they're purchasing. But things that I've seen work are raising a lot of money in advance of the event. So not just saving the event itself for making up the lion's share of the cost that you hope to recoup, but trying to do any fundraising in advance, setting up some fundraising opportunities during the event itself through like text to donate is really popular because that's something you can do in real time. Really good marketing in advance of the event. So not necessarily a lot, but really intentional. So thinking about, who are the core people that typically come and making sure you're doing really intentional asks to them. Obviously leveraging people internally, board members, committee members, to try and get their folks to sign up too. Pretty good production quality for most of the event. I think, again, people expect to want it to not, crash and look all junky. I've even heard of some platforms that have been able to, and I can't remember what they are, like you can watch it on your smart TV, like certain live stream apps where like folks can put on their TV and they don't have to like set up their computer, and that's been more successful. I think food/booze in advance is helpful because then it like, people got to eat anyway. So people are more likely to take the time out. Like I know the event that, my family and I invested a little into attend, even though we have young kids and like, it's not an ideal time to do virtual events, but we get a meal out of it. We're like, sure, why not? I mean, we got to eat anyway. So, and the alcohol was an upsell. So on the ticket price, it allowed control for how much you wanted to spend. There was like the base price and then 3 meal options. And then you could add on a 6-pack, which my husband was like, yes, please. But you didn't have to do that. So there is some upsell. And I think they also added an upsell for like some raffle ticket or something. So that created like a tiered opportunity so people can we are going to pick up the meal. It's not going to be delivered, but I think they're offering delivery. And then they're doing sponsorships still. So reaching out to people that always sponsored the event in the past. This is for a community development corporation is doing this particular event, but just to throw out some of those ideas that I've seen work, but it's still a lot of work.
I have a question about food delivery. Pam and Rachel, maybe you can talk about this. You know, Pam, you said that, you know, for the Akron women's or the
women's endowment.
Women's endowment. Yeah, thank you. There were a lot of people. Was that a nightmare? I mean, how did you guys handle food delivery?
No, our caterer, he handled everything. As I said, this was actually his dream. And so he hired a lot of young drivers. He had it organized. So that morning he had all these drivers that they had their own section where they were delivering, and they started that morning and they got it done.
Yeah, I could see them if you get the right person, they're happy to have the opportunity to like, maybe did they like drop off menus or something too, you think, like to promote their business?
No.
Okay.
No, he didn't.
Okay.
Like I said, this was the first time that was the first event that Jeff Klein had done. And I mean, and it was not just Summit County, because we have people from Cuyahoga County. He went up there and delivered. And so we had other counties that he delivered to because of our corporate sponsors, you know, their people lived everywhere. So
yeah, you guys, this is Tracy. I attended that event virtually, and I had a meal delivered with wine, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful. I can't believe you guys said you would come down to Canton because I live in Stark County. And they said, oh my gosh, yeah, I actually live in the area and I'm glad to have come down. The girl was really happy to have the opportunity. I don't know I believe, didn't somebody pay the delivery drivers, and it was maybe some people who might have gotten downsized somewhere, but yes, it was very nice.
Jeff's one of our board members. This is Sue. I'm late to the game. I'm sorry, at Boy Scouts here. And Pam, we kind of followed your lead and put our own twist on it from Women's Endowment. And we did exactly the same thing. I mean, he delivered, we're in a 5-county footprint and people pre-ordered and he delivered. We did not do the alcohol component. We did dessert. We just chose to do that based on our constituency because, you know, being mindful, we were in September, so COVID was continuing to languish and we didn't know where people were going to be with funds. So we did dessert so that we didn't have to worry about that. And we even we delivered a swag bag as well. And Jeff took care of all of that. We had to do the logistics on a spreadsheet and sort by zip code. But people liked it. We got really good feedback and they actually had their own parties. It was a beautiful night on a Thursday night. And we got pictures of people sitting outside because we helped them have the little bit of interaction that they could. And then we had an online auction and we had to pivot on that. But one of our board members who's pretty savvy with that, David, did a great job. So I'm not going to say it wasn't with a lot of effort in a short time frame, but I think people getting tangible things was huge. It cannot be completely remote or virtual. So that's my 2 cents. I just, when you guys brought up Jeff, he's awesome. Robert J. Events, if you
right. And then also, you know, we have done since then, the Women's Endowment has done some smaller events for, you know, our major donors. We had some events for them and we used some women caterers, you know, because they were smaller events and it was just like Summit County or something. And so we tried to use some other local caterers to help promote their businesses. But one of the things I wanted to say is with the virtual events, this is an opportunity to really think outside the box. And you can do some things that you may not be able to do if you had an in-person event. For instance, with Project Grad, our keynotes, we had it in October. Our keynote speaker, we would not have been able to have her had we have had an in-person event because we wouldn't have been able to afford it. But because we were having a virtual event, she was at home, she pre-taped it, sent it to us, and Stacey Abrams was our keynote speaker. So, it's an opportunity to think outside the box about, okay, if we had an in-person event, I wouldn't be able to do this, but with a virtual event, I may be able to do it. So, it's just, you can have to really think outside the box with them.
I know that Akron Community Foundation, I don't know if anyone was able to participate over the holidays with the Gay Endowment Fund did the Sugar Plum Tour, and it was all video, something you would normally go into people's homes and see their Christmas decoration. It was amazing, high quality production, way to pivot on, the whole social distancing thing. So it really is looking at things outside of the box and taking advantage of things and maybe making them new opportunities. They did a book that accompanied it. And it was just really, I've never participated. I've always wanted to do it, and virtually gave me that opportunity with a tighter time frame. It was amazing.
We had people that attended, like, that were outside of the geography too. And then one of our honoree was Frank LaRose, and his troop master, who's in his 90s now and was actually, on the beaches of Normandy. So that gives you some perspective. He was compromised. So, and he was in an assisted living, and I don't know that it would have probably been a challenge for him to attend, even to give that honoree, but it was really cool because we involved his son and we sent meals to them, and he was able to do that with his son. And then we taped something ahead of time so that he could be comfortable in his presentation. So it allowed some control over areas where we made participants and supporters really comfortable. So there are some upsides. I'm not promoting COVID, but there are some upsides to it.
You just reminded me, Sue, of one other thing I was going to mention, which is I know some organizations have been able to pre-record, or not even pre-record, just engage live people from like really far away that are really special in their field. Like the Jesuit Retreat Center up here got some folks in from Ireland, and that was super cool. So to your point, I think that's another opportunity.
We had someone carve huge eagles, obviously for Eagle Scout. And one of the gentlemen that was in a troop was from, I think, Alabama or Arkansas that purchased it. So we were able to do that in honor of this gentleman that I'm talking about, that was this troop leader. And then what we did is we delivered it to his parents who live in Chippewa Lake. So quite honestly, it provided some opportunities for like expanded engagement with people and some limited one-on-one contact that I think we didn't anticipate. So, again, not the way we'd want to do it, but there are some upsides to it.
Can I ask a question about live and silent auctions pertaining? I just get the sense that silent auctions are really hard to get traction around. So we're looking at just going a dozen kind of higher end things for ours. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I'm just in the process of we have our big fundraiser that's coming up at the end of February, Cookie Table and Cocktails. We actually squeaked by last year. It was one of the last events in town before everything shut down. So it's going virtual this year. But I'm right now gathering silent and baskets for the online auction. So we'll see how it goes. It's a big moneymaker for us at the actual event. We're running it a week prior to the event. So when we do, the video is going to be, it's a video production made to look live. And at the end, we're going to announce the winners. But I think the auction software is actually going to email the winners of the basket auctions and the silent auction. But we'll have posts on our website and on social media too. So I'm curious to see how this whole thing is going to go with, with us doing it for a week. I've heard some other organizations in Youngstown area have done them and have made just about as much online as they have in person. So that's encouraging. It is a lot of work though. It's a lot of work to do. I would rather do a live event than do the video event because it's so much work. We're lucky that we have on staff a really super talented videographer that's in our, he works in our business and media archive section, and he's doing just a fabulous job with everything.
Is Joanne Carpenter on from Refuge of Hope? Is she on?
I don't think so.
she had a virtual event and I served on the committee. And they had, back to what Rachel said, they did theirs through Kiko Auctioneers, and then you stream the event. You could stream the event on your TV through YouTube, but then you used the bidding on your phone, which was really nice. So they had the online auction. And then what they did was they did a time where people could come pick up their items or they delivered the items. So they had a couple of volunteers that went and delivered the items following the event, like a couple days after the event. They did hope kits for all of their attendees, and a lot of them you could either pick them up or they would deliver them. And then they also I'm trying to think what else they did. So instead of like doing a ticket purchase, they promoted like a raffle. And then if you bought a raffle ticket, that was kind of like your ticket to the event, so to speak. So they spun it that way, which was really good. And they sold quite a few raffle tickets. So it was a $5,000 prize. And I believe the tickets were $100 a piece. So
yeah, we're having.
She had a very successful event. And I think the key is just like everyone has been saying, I attended it, like you need to engage your people, you need to make it like fun for them, because and keep your videos limited. I don't think anyone wants to sit through watching a bunch of videos. Joanne was live at the event. It was Joanne, her CEO, and the auctioneer, Mike Lena, who's amazing. So, but like it was a fun event. So, and she was announcing out people that were donating and calling their names out, which I thought was really good. So, it was just, she kept us engaged. So,
did they do testimonials?
They didn't do testimonials. They highlighted one of their, they did a short video on one of their, one of their people, their participants, one of the guys that attended the shelter, and they kind of did like a recap on like his success and what being a member of their shelter and where he's at now, which was really good. So they highlighted him, and then he was on just for like a very short time during the live portion, and they asked him a few questions. So it was really good. It was very heartwarming, very touching story. It was great to see like somebody who was homeless and where he's at today because of their shelter. So I thought that was a really great aspect. And they kept the video short. I'm trying to think, I'm missing anything. Also back to the women's board, they actually did their fashion show event, which was a virtual event. And I think too, just keeping it to an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, you know what I mean? You don't need to have your audience on for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. You want to just keep it short and sweet, keep them engaged. But they did a fashion show, and they did, their packages were like kits, and they worked with the Barrel Room and that Nicole with Fromage, I'm not saying that's right, the cheese place, Fromage de Monde. She has a real high-end cheese place down here, and they made up really cool kits. And then the guests, like the attendees, had to pick them up at the Barrel Room. So they had a pickup time. You drove through, you picked up your bag. It was a great event, successful event. The kits were amazing. So just some other ideas to throw out there, just from some events that I've attended. So
I think I would agree with the hour. We kept it to 50 minutes to an hour because you lose them and you can actually see the tracking. And we did do some testimonials, Paula, but we were really mindful, and we even had like a pre-event. So that was like the time, 15 minutes to a half hour before, where we played some music and some slides. And for me, that was our log on time and make sure that everybody could get logged on. So we kind of made use of that time, that they weren't just looking at a static screen. That was a loop. And then we did do live and called out donors and those type of things. We opened our silent, our event was on a Thursday. We opened our silent on a Monday. So that started kind of the traction where people were watching. So that was helpful. And the last thing is, I agree that live events are, to Linda's point, are much more work the day of. To me, the flip side was we had to put a lot more work in ahead of time. But when we got to that day, other than being nervous because it was the first time we did it, it was like, wow. You know, so it was just a shifting of where the work went. So.
And I do want to add the women's board. What they did was how they engaged people was they did do the scrolling donors. They called them out, but then they also encouraged everyone to take pictures and promote them on Facebook or send them, and they promoted them on the Facebook. And then the one that had the they did some like giveaways. So the one that had the funniest picture received a prize. And so they did like some little giveaways for their photos, which was really fun and engaging as well. So, and they kept sharing those pictures as people were submitting them on the live screen too, so we could see, you know, the other attendees that were joining in as well. So,
you know, and a lot of them are using those photo booths. You can get those photo booths, and you know, they can take all kind of funny pictures, and you know, you can post them and everything. But Paula, as far as your auction items go, now I keep hearing from people that they make more off of their silent auction than they do their live auction items, because with their live auction items, you don't have that, you know, how when you're in person, you have that kind of going back and forth type of thing, and you don't get that virtually. So you may want to check into.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. Well, last year,
I would just think that silent would get really tedious, you know?
Yeah, last September, Coleman hosted their 32nd annual event. It's called Right at Home, and it was always hosted by someone in their home, and it was always it revolved around artwork. Well, we knew that we had to pivot like everybody else if we wanted to make it successful. And I just joined the staff last January, so this was my first go around with the event at all. So we did not do live. We only did silent, and it was very successful. We did open up. We used GiveSmart as our platform, and we did we opened up the event for people to look and, you know, start thinking about what they wanted to bid on a week in advance. So the event was on a Thursday, so we had started at the Thursday, and it was very successful. We had some high-end art pieces. We had some medium, you know, we had different ranges of artwork, and then we had a lot of other types of donations, and including a beautiful jewelry donated by Paula, and it was great. I mean, our costs were so low. We didn't, you know, have you know, we never had to rent a facility because it was always in somebody's home. But you know, you didn't have the food, you know, the alcohol, and you know, some of the other things associated with that. We did have testimonials that were taped ahead of time. Like a few other people have said, we were very mindful as to how long they ran. And we had Mark Pennell from WKSU as our host, and he had pre-recorded some things. So it was, you know, it was a nice transition. And it was just, you know, it was so different from, you know, from what we were normally used to. But I think that, you know, promoting it heavily and, you know, in advance and allowing people to see what they can start, you know, putting their eyes on as far as bidding was really important. So, you know, we didn't make as much money as we did the year before, but we did really well.
It's Mark Pennell. Jackie, for the notes, not Mark Powell. You probably don't know who he is.
Yeah, it's Pennell.
Pennell, I think.
Yeah. He, you know, he loves our mission. So when he was asked to do it, he was more than happy to. And it was very helpful.
Carol, was the name of the software you used was GiveSmart, right?
Yes.
GIVE Smart?
Yeah, GIVE Smart.
We just contracted with them for a year here at Holden Forest and Gardens, so I'm looking forward to how that all works. We haven't used it for an event yet. We did use it for a fundraising platform campaign, but I'm interested to see how that all works. So I just wanted to make sure it was GiveSmart, right?
Right.
Okay.
And also, you know, we only use that for our event. We have yet to dabble into using it for other things, but we looked into a couple different platforms, and you know, that's what we decided to go with. So, and you can, you know, it's scary when you're doing something for the first time and you're using a platform that you've never done before. And I know Renee at Akron Community Foundation, they've used it, and they were successful. They bought the tier, the package where you can hire their staff to help you do everything, you know, with checkout, you know, if you need any technical, if you have technical issues, they're right there. We didn't have any. We were very fortunate. But, you know, it just depends on how comfort, you know, what your comfort level is with using all that. I totally agree.
I'd like to point in there, as far as GiveSmart, this is just kind of, I don't really know how it works for events, but we took it on. We contracted with them for events, and then we had damage at the Holden Forest, at the Holden Arboretum and the gardens. And we jumped into it and used it as a campaign and raised $55,000 in 3 weeks. Now, what I do want to say is that it doesn't have to do with events, but I was not trained in it. And I was on the back end pulling reports and changing the look of the design of the page. And it was so easy, because if anyone knew me, I'm not technically savvy. And for me to go in, I was like doing the happy dance, because I was like, this is great software if I can do it without training. Now, I did have to chat twice, but it was user friendly. So just if anyone's looking into something, again, I don't know how it works on the auction end, but it was very user friendly for me. So.
Yeah, our secretary, she pretty much did everything on the back end. You know, we did have a lot of work up front. Sue was saying it just kind of depends on, you know, if all the work is the day of the event, well, the big work. But, you know, we were taking pictures of art. We were taking pictures of baskets. Every single thing you're auctioning off, we had to take a picture, put it up online. So there was a lot of work involved. But you know, if that's what you need to do, you know, it's just like if it's a live event, you have a lot of work either way.
Has anybody done any crowdfunding? And this might be into a different area. I'm not sure what's below. Is there anything down there for digital as far as discussion points? Because we're kind of getting off of events. Maybe it's events. But anybody doing crowdfunding for specific needs?
So at Hattie Larlam, we've done that. We pick an item of need, and then we have a day surrounding education and social media about the item, and then we have a goal set to raise. I want to say one was a heart defibrillator piece of equipment, and we wanted to raise money for 4 pieces of the item. So it was very specific and very a close time frame. The weekend, a long weekend, a celebration of Disability Awareness Day. So we had specific parameters around it.
Sounds like maybe that's an underused opportunity for those of us as fundraisers. I know I would like to take a look at maybe doing something for the rooms of our shelter. They're pretty bare for the most part, and they get hard use, and that's part of the reason why we have to have steel frame beds and things like that. But I'm wondering about an adopt a shelter room, kind of a crowdfund.
Do you think that seems like something that would benefit from many really small gifts? I think that's, you know, that's the thinking, is making sure that you're promoting it on platforms where you're likely to find people in that position. I mean, Facebook fundraisers, like birthday fundraisers, tend to do really well, tend to do okay, I should say really well. It just really depends. Because I mean, I know for me, because my credit card's linked right up to it, I'm just like, oh yeah, you know, it's just like, it takes one click. So I think if it was set up in a really easy way, it could be successful. And I agree, it would have to be something really targeted and specific so people know exactly what it's going toward.
Yeah.
I think people like to support things like that because then they can see something, tangible. They can, come, I'm not sure, Paula, if, donors come in and, because of, what you guys do. But if someone is able to see where their money went in a very physical fashion, I think it really kind of means so much. It's not just going to, like for the whole organization, which is always really important, but I think that could be very successful for you guys.
Yeah, I thought about even branding the rooms, having people buy the brand. For those of you who don't know, I'm domestic violence. I'm not sure if that would be gauche though or not, but I think we could get some money out of branding a room to a certain individual.
Or even local companies or.
Yeah. Yeah, because we've not done any of that. Yeah, Dan. Yeah.
I don't think that's gauche at all. I think it's good marketing. It's a good opportunity to partner with a corporate partner. So I think that's a great idea.
I see we are at time, so I know we've covered a lot of ground. Did not get to all of our topics, but a lot fruitful, I hope. I know I'm sure Jackie's going to need a break from typing for a couple of hours, and hopefully no cramps have her down. So thank you, Jackie, for covering all this content for us. Of course, thank you to all of you for the great ideas and the great conversation. I know Jackie will be getting out the notes soon, but other than that, thank you, and be on the lookout for next month's session. Jackie, please refresh my memory. I should know these things by heart now, and I don't.
On February 18th, we're going to have communicating with diverse donors and communities and understanding them. That's part 2 of the event we held in November, and everyone kept saying there's so much more to cover. We need a part 2. So that's going to happen in February 18th. Of course, I will promote it heavily to everyone who's attended this session. I also recorded this session, so I will send it out. I will take all the chat messages and add them to my notes. So I'll send you both the video link and the notes. Would anyone mind me sending people's emails as well? Just your name and emails, no more other contact information. So if someone said something very interesting, you'd like to follow up with them, you can connect with them. Would that be okay? Okay. If you don't want your emails shared, go ahead and put in the chat saying don't share this. And I'll keep the chat open for the next 15 minutes in case you want to add anything else. But in the meantime, we've ended. So thank you very much to everyone who participated.
And Jackie, I sent you the information about the PPP webinar that's coming up.
I will include that.
Please.
I will include that in the email as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Everybody.
Okay,
Thanks.
take care, everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks, Jackie, for all your typing.
Awesome exchange.